As rosters are formed finally for the 2023 season, who are the best and worst teams in every division in the NFL, starting with the AFC power rankings for each division, coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Make sure you are one. Subscribe up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay, we're going to start West here, AFC West, and go through each division, power rank within the division, and then at the end, maybe decide which division we like the most. And there are some powerhouse divisions here in the AFC, Matt. Maybe even some candidates to go from worst to first this year and really flip the script, as it happens every year. So there's going to be one of those teams, and we'll see if we can find one here in the AFC, maybe more likely in the NFC. But starting in the West, Matt, can you power rank anybody higher than those Kansas City Chiefs?
No, and they deserve it. What's amazing to me is Mahomes and Reed, even before Mahomes got there, record versus the division. I mean, with Alex Smith, and before we even knew who Mahomes was, Reed comes from Philly to the Chiefs and just dominates the division in a Belichick-Brady-like manner. And Mahomes versus the division is bonkers. Now, I think there's some chinks, like I don't love their wide receivers. And we can say this about a lot of teams, like Justin Jefferson gets hurt. What if, people get hurt, but they're very Kelsey reliant in terms of skill position. And he's just not a young man. I mean, someday he's going to slow down or get hurt. I don't know what matters. I mean, the Chiefs, to me, their formula to me is we need a pass rusher or two, Jones, of course, and they've been drafting pass rushers like crazy. And we need to protect Pat and give him at least one weapon. He'll fill in all the blanks. And it's a phenomenal way of team building. But I wonder if it's a little fragile. Chris Jones is sitting out. Kelsey's getting old. What if one of the two stumbles in one way, shape, or form?
There are multiple teams that we'll talk about that if there's that one injury, things could start to go south. And obviously for the Kansas City Chiefs, it all revolves around Patrick Mahomes. But if you're projecting a healthy Patrick Mahomes, which you kind of have to, hopefully Chris Jones gets into camp, right? It's a recipe that led to 14 wins last year, and they won the division. They won it all, and they are that team. You can't put any team over the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion. No, you can build a story about, hey, maybe if this happens, then we could have a new winner. Who would be the winner if the Kansas City Chiefs do stumble this year in the West for you?
So I was just doing a little research there because I knew the numbers are insane. I was looking at Pat Mahomes' record versus the division. I know we went back even before Mahomes is what I was mentioning, but I just wanted to look at his. This is mind-boggling. He's 27-3 against the AFC West. He's 7-2 against the Chargers. They're the ones that have his number because he's 11-0 against Denver and 9-1 against Vegas.
Wow. So that means
I think he played some of them in the postseason then, or maybe he was injured for one, or I don't know how you don't have the same number of times. Yeah.
He's missed a couple games, right?
Yeah, and maybe one was playoffs. I don't know, but he's 27-3 against the division. Come on.
Can Kellen Moore turn that offense around in Los Angeles? I mean, I like the Chargers. How can you not like the Chargers right here? They have to be 2 for you, right? And if I was doing like we will do our predictions show as well, getting closer to the season. I would love to predict the Chargers to have a great season and slay the giant in the Chiefs and go far in the playoffs, because they're on the cusp of that. And if that, it's almost like, man, if that doesn't happen, if this offensive coordinator doesn't unlock something even more special with this team, then maybe it's a whole new coaching staff with Justin Herbert next year.
I think Herbert is actually being slept on a little bit. I think everyone listening, everyone on the planet knows, yeah, he's really, really good. And I'm not saying he's going to knock Mahomes off the throne, but he could, or he could be clearly number 2, which is an amazing thing. And Moore might be the guy to do it. And they're one of these, I say this a lot, everyone's psyched about the Jets and the Browns and the Lions. And I always say those 3 franchises have won nothing my whole life. And I think the Chargers, I don't want to say they're snake bitten, but how many times have they burned us with expectations and then not living up to them? But man, if they could stay healthy, that might be the best offense in the league.
And they might have been the most disappointing 10-win team last year as well. So there's not like they're coming from a place that was bad. But I like the Chargers a lot. And I do too. I think it's an easy 1-2 there in the division. Can the Broncos, who were last in the division last year, flip the script with a new head coach in Sean Payton?
I think they can get back to respectability. I think they'll run the football. They won't. I mean, they hurt themselves with errors over and over and over, and bad coaching and sloppiness. Those things will go away, or those players will go away. I mean, there's a new czar, and I think they'll be a respectable team. Wilson won't be a bottom 5 quarterback. He'll be the 14th best quarterback or 12th. And okay, and play some defense. Do you agree this might be the easiest division of all 8 to power rank? I think we're starting with a layup here. I think everyone's going to do 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think so. And I think that you have to put the Raiders last right now. And Raiders fans listening will probably give us some good reasons in the YouTube comments and on Twitter why we're sleeping on them. And to be honest with you, I just want to see it, because I don't think that much differently about the Raiders right now than I did last year. And they might be improved in some areas. I'm interested to see how different the offense might look. I mean, Josh McDaniels did a lot of work to stay in the same tier of quarterback, to go from Carr to Garoppolo. So what was missing that we'll see this year is my question. And I just still don't think they have enough bullets on the defensive side to hang with those teams.
Getting Jacobs back is nice. He's a good player. He'll probably be the foundation of the offense with Adams. Great. And I think the offense has a chance to be pretty good. But I don't trust Jimmy to stay healthy. And frankly, if I were power ranking the AFC, I might even have Vegas behind Houston, Indy, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, and goodness.
I mean, I'm down on him. I think the offense is brutal. And prediction time, I think we see Kevin O'Connell sooner than later. Like, just to say he shows up at some point this year isn't that weak of a limb, but I bet we get a good look at him this year.
Especially given Jimmy Garoppolo's injury history.
Right.
And if things are not going well in December, you could see hey, let's see what the young guy looks like. You're right. So interesting year for the Las Vegas Raiders there. So this is I think this one's kind of chalky, but Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders. That's how I have them. That's how you have them, right, man?
Yep. I think I'd be shocked if 90% of our listeners don't agree with that one.
All right. Next, we're going to move on to the North, the South, and of course the AFC East. Power rank these divisions, and which division do we like best overall? Next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Gametime. Love me the Gametime app. If you are a sports fan, if you are a fan of music and going to concerts or going to comedy or going to theater or anything you need tickets for, don't stress, because you can find last-minute tickets. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. So with killer deals you find at Gametime, last-minute tickets, and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you will have at your event. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, you name it. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference of those tickets. You get images of your seats before you buy, so you know exactly what you're getting and what you can expect when you arrive. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account at Gametime and redeem code Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Matt, you're scribbling something down. Are you picking a new worst to first or something? Do you have a big shakeup here in your division of the AFC North, seeing the Pittsburgh Steelers blow through the competition in the preseason? Is that the new favorite in the North?
No, but I'll be higher on them than everybody else. I had the Steelers number 2 in the North, which I think is pretty darn controversial. I mean, that's a great division. I still have the Bengals 1. But what I was scribbling down is I just pulled up the schedule grid, and I know we're doing power rank schedules, doesn't matter, but I wanted to see who the Bengals started the season with. They get the Browns and Ravens right out of the bat, right to start the season. And I think this Burrow calf thing, the lack of playing offensive starters in the preseason, could lead to a slow start by the Bengals, but they have a really good roster top to bottom, both sides of the ball. Great quarterback, assuming he gets right. So they're number 1 for me.
I think just seeing the recent success of the Cincinnati Bengals and your power ranking and not even trying to make any hot take predictions right on this episode, you have to put the Cincinnati Bengals 1. But as we get closer to the season, if Joe Burrow's looking less ready, if he misses time, that could change, because this might be the tightest division in the NFL, top to bottom, like 1 to 4, because there's no you're not projecting any bad teams in this division.
100%. Like, I would imagine, and trust me, I don't care. A lot of our listeners probably still think the Steelers are 4, and they could be. I mean, they don't ever come in 4th in the division, and the Browns never win the division. I think I was graduating high school the last time the Browns won the division. I mean, there's some trends here that are hard to ignore. I mean, Steelers and Ravens don't really falter all that much.
So that means you have the Steelers 2, which means, do you have the Baltimore Ravens 4th, or do you have the Cleveland Browns 4th?
Those last 3 to me are very, very close. I have the Ravens 4th, reluctantly. I mean, I have great respect for that organization. I might even pick Lamar for MVP. I think I have $1 or $2 on Lamar for MVP.
Yeah, hedge. You go. It's one way or the other with this team this year, because Lamar misses time. This is the worst team in the division.
And he always misses time at the end of the year. But I also think that here's my concerns with the Ravens, and they may work themselves out. I just think that no offense is changing scheme as dramatically as Baltimore. And I think it's the right move. I just think it might be growing pains for the first month or 2. Just throwing the receivers outside the numbers and all this stuff isn't what they've done for the Lamar era. It might just take a little time. And I think their defense is vastly overrated, especially after like a Marlon Humphrey injury. Their defensive line's very questionable.
Yeah, that's what scares me about the Ravens right now. Yeah. And there's some questions kind of on both lines, and there's some questions about early in the season. So you've got Odell Beckham, who's, injury history. He's not the same Odell he was. Rashad Bateman coming off an injury, and then a rookie. It's like, how's that all going to come together? Really, Mark Andrews is the only one you can count on, and it's a new offense. So what's that all going to look like? There are definitely a lot more questions for the Baltimore Ravens than there usually are. But it could turn out amazing too. And clearly they want to change the offense to become more productive there and more explosive on offense. And if that works, then look out. Maybe the Baltimore Ravens win the division. So probably the most variable team here.
Yeah. And I think the Browns are always a variable team, especially because of their quarterback. I mean, they're
right. Deshaun Watson, we expect a much better player, but what if he never regains that? Then now we're talking about the last place team.
Exactly. And the Browns disappoint over my lifetime. The Ravens are always there. So I had a hard time putting the Browns over the Ravens. But back to my original point, of the 4 units, I think the Ravens defense is the weakest. The 8 units, I mean.
The 4 offenses and 4 defenses.
Yeah.
I can buy that.
Yeah. Which is weird to say.
You might be talking me into putting the Ravens last now that I think about it. Yeah, this is really tough for me. It's so close. I want to put the Browns actually 2, but I can't do it. So I'm going to put the Ravens 2 because I believe in Lamar. And right now he's healthy. So for power ranking, it's kind of right now versus what could happen. And then I'm going to put the Steelers 3 and the Browns 4, which is how they ended the division last year, right? But I think that's still how it is. But man, it's going to be a good division. It's going to be tight, especially if the Cincinnati Bengals start slow. Like 4 10-win teams, and then we're going to tiebreakers, right? We might be talking about a lot of tiebreakers in this division in December and January.
Right. And I just want to double check. The last time the Browns won the division was 1989.
Say again?
The last time the Browns won the division was 1989.
Okay, I thought you said
that's unbelievable.
He said 80s. I was like, did you say 89? My goodness.
1989. I was just getting my driver's license.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, some of these trends are hard for me to think, oh, this is the year it's going to change,
Yeah. I was in elementary school.
Right. That's a long time.
That was a good group. That was a good team, though. Wow. Like playing Tecmo Bowl.
Browns. Is that like Frank Minifield and Ernest Mack and those guys? Maybe.
Yeah, Mack.
Bernie Kosar.
Right. Absolutely. Kosar. For sure. All right. So,
tough division, though. That's the hardest one. We had the easiest one, the hardest one to me.
All right. So Matt's going to be a homer and pick the Steelers too. Okay. Yeah. Surprised you didn't go 1 there. I honestly like the Steelers a lot more now, and I shouldn't put that much into preseason ball, but not because of the record, just because of how Kenny Pickett looked.
Yeah. He looks very, very comfortable.
It's a big deal. That's a big deal for we talk about Lamar getting hurt. If Deshaun Watson's not Deshaun Watson, second year bump or Deshaun Watson doesn't regain old Deshaun Watson form, and then Kenny Pickett year 2 quarterback bump that we see often. That's why you have to put the Bengals 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Now the Bengals deserve to be 1.
Yeah.
Last homer note, though, the Steelers had their bye last year at week 9. And from week 9 on, post-bye, any advanced metric you look at, like DVOA, EPA, they're like the 8th best team in the league. Watt started to come back. Pickett started to figure it out, cut down on turnovers. So they've been going the right direction quietly. But, they were 2-6 going into the bye, and nobody thought anything of them.
Right. And Kenny Pickett, didn't he have 2 games with like 3 interceptions?
Yes.
Early. Then had like 1 interception the rest of the year or something.
Something along those lines. Yeah. I could find it, but yeah, it's very, very good. And lastly, like from that point on, he was, how PFF does their big time throw rate and their, he was 2nd or 3rd in big time throw rate, right behind Mahomes and like Allen. And he was 2nd or 3rd in turnover worthy plays. So if you throw one that should get picked, you get dinged for it there. I mean, he didn't even get lucky. I mean, he just was really good in both. So it's encouraging.
Not a huge arm quarterback, but he does have that touch and throw a nice ball in the bucket. Going on to the AFC South, and I think one is easy, and it's the Jacksonville Jaguars for me. Can you talk me out of that one, Matt? But you can talk to me about just anything else in this division.
I know, but this was the division I was looking least forward to because I think the Jags is going to be great. I mean, Ridley, all those weapons, Ingram, ATN, Bigsby, blah, 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 blah. Lawrence is a star if he isn't already. I think he solidifies himself like Herbert as an elite quarterback. I went Tennessee, Houston, Indy, but really only gave Tennessee the nod because of Rabel.
That's fair, and they're starting a veteran quarterback too. It's hard to look at the Colts and the Houston Texans, especially with the Colts now. The only thing you could bank on coming into the year was Jonathan Taylor. And is he going to be there? Is he going to be gone? Is he going to be weird? A lot of these teams that have weirdness leading up to the season, it just is a bad vibe and doesn't go well. You're installing new stuff with new coaches. So I don't like the vibe going on in Indianapolis, and I really like Anthony Richardson, but I just think he's going to have a lot of hit or miss games, and there might be some bad games in there. So in the Houston Texans, you say the same thing. You got a rookie quarterback. You got Damian Pierce, which I like. I think they have an opportunity to improve quite a bit, but we're talking a 5-win team instead of a 3-win team. With the Colts, you win 6 games instead of 4 games. Does that get you out of the 3 and 4 spot? It's hard to say that. So Jacksonville, Tennessee, Houston, Indy is the way I have them.
Jacksonville, that's the same as me. I think Tennessee's defense is legit. Tannehill won't hurt you. Their O-line's a disaster, but Henry, Hopkins, Burks, Chig, they'll get to 7 wins or something with Vrabel, where Houston and Indy have that lethal combination of rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. Like
I like a little
usually
bit
go well.
more what the Houston Texans are building up front.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I give them the nod. Like I
Me
really
too.
think we're talking defensive rookie of the year for Will Anderson. He looks like a beast. They'll be
I was thinking their O-line.
and they've done a lot of
Yeah.
work on their O-line. The Colts have a pretty good O-line as well, but they do have some questions, and I think I like where the Houston Texans are. I love Pierce, and I like the way that they have an opportunity. They don't have a ton of playmakers on the outside, but they're going to find ways to get the ball into those playmakers' hands. And so I think we're going to see a lot of horizontal stuff there, and then play action and take a couple shots with CJ, with CJ Stroud. So
yeah,
interesting division there, but it's clearly Jacksonville Jaguars are the class of the division, and the Titans still have too much talent and are still too well coached to fall behind, I think. But I like the Texans a little bit more than the Colts right now, especially with this Jonathan Taylor thing, because we're doing the power ranking right now today.
Exactly. And I'd have a hard time believing the Titans can truly bottom out, kind of like we talked about, like with the Steelers and Ravens. Like some of these coaches just are always going to win the 3 or 4 games they shouldn't. And for much of the offseason, I looked at the Colts and thought, Quentin Nelson, Jonathan Taylor, Richardson, they're going to have a great running game, and Leonard and Buckner will keep it a solid defense. I just feel less confident about that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what do they have coming off the edge? But I could see how that could become explosive pretty quick. And if they figure it out, then I do like the Colts a little bit better. So
Richardson could be rookie of the year.
You're right. Oh, absolutely.
No, he could.
Yep. We could have both offensive and defensive rookies of the year in that division.
Very possible. Very possible.
Next, AFC East. And which one of these teams might go worst to first? And what's the team that we project could be the biggest disappointment potentially in 2023 next? Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Gametime. Appreciate everybody out there making us your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Okay, AFC East, Matt. Is this the division that we could potentially have that worst to first with the New York Jets, or is it going to be the same old Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, the 13-3 Buffalo Bills from last year, winning that division in the East once again?
I think the Bills deserve respect and should be number one. And they've won a lot of games lately. Allen played with what I believe is a bad elbow injury to end the season. And I hate to bring this up, but can you imagine what the Hamlin thing did to the whole organization too? Like when it mattered most late down the stretch, it had to be, to say it's a distraction is the smallest thing ever. I mean, it's your friend, it's your teammate. So I think Buffalo still deserves the 1 spot.
I felt like this was closer last year in the East than it was. Buffalo Bills ran away with this division, 13-3 record, and didn't have that extra game. And then, the Miami Dolphins were only 9-8, and then Patriots were 8-9, and the Jets were 7-10. This is going to be a much more difficult division. I think all these teams are better, and so except for the Bills. I mean, the Bills weren't.
Yeah, they kind of stayed the same.
Didn't get a lot worse, but this is going to be much more competitive. And I'm a believer in what I'm seeing from the New York Jets right now and Aaron Rodgers. Like, there's no team that's going to improve more because just seeing a couple series in the preseason too, it's like, oh man, that's right. Rodgers so confident, comes to the line, making his checks. It's like this could not be more different now on offense, and they have weapons on offense, and they've got talent on defense. On every level. And I like the Jets a lot in this one. So I'm going to do it, Matt. I'm going worst to first.
Nice.
I'm going New York Jets narrowly over the Buffalo Bills, then the Miami Dolphins 3.
I have the Jets 2 for all those reasons. I mean, you're going from potentially the worst or bottom 3 quarterbacking in 2022 to top 3 in 2023. And we know how important that position is. It might be the best defense in the league. I mean, it's right there in the conversation, and they added a first-round pick to that mix, and I think the O-line will be a little better, and sprinkle in a little Dalvin Cook with a little cherry on top. And so I think they're a very good team. I just respect the Bills a little bit more. And I know we're not talking schedule and predicting record, but look at this beginning to the season for the Jets. They host Buffalo. They go to Dallas, host the Patriots. That's the easy one. Host the Chiefs, go to Denver, which is terrible, and then the Eagles. I mean, so they go into the bye. They might be 2-4, but might be way better than last year.
That's it. We did the episode about the
quarterbacks and all
schedule, and then the quarterbacks, and it's tough for all these teams. But they, which is why it makes it even more difficult for a team like the Patriots, because they're not going to have the advantage at quarterback in that AFC East schedule. So, and the Dolphins, depending on where Tua is, and hopefully he stays healthy, that's going to be the big determining factor there for, and who knows, maybe you throw Jonathan Taylor in the mix too with those Miami Dolphins. We'll see what happens there. We're on cut down day now, and then those cuts are going to happen later. And it's also supposed to be the deadline for Jonathan Taylor. So we'll have more information about that when we look at the final 53s for every team on Wednesday morning's show. But yeah, for me, it's the Jets, Bills, Dolphins, and I like all those teams a lot. And I mean, Bill Belichick's still coaching the Patriots. So what are we talking about? The worst division in the worst team in the division, having 8 wins again. And I think they're going to be better too, just by getting a real offensive coordinator. So maybe all 4 of these teams are above 500 at the end of it.
You agree though that the easiest spot to place was New England 4?
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah, I do too. And again, that's what I was just mentioned their early schedule. Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, Cowboys, Saints, Vegas, Bills, Dolphins. Like they could be 1-7 or 2-6 halfway through the season and also be better. I think their defense is elite. I mean, I don't throw that word around on the podcast very often, and it's going to be ridiculously well coached. And they have like 18 guys on defense that are all different chess pieces. And Belichick's just going to twist his mustache and do crazy things. I just don't think they have any playmakers on offense. Like Ramondre Stevenson's a really good player, but who else is good on the offense?
That's what I struggle with, because you're just going to win every game by 3,
right?
And which is kind of like it's what Bill Belichick's pretty good at doing that, but you can build the story for how the Dolphins could be amazing, or how the Bills could be what the Bills have been, and what the Jets could be. But it's harder to build that story about the Patriots and like, oh my God, Mac Jones can be in the MVP conversation, and they're going to put up points left and right and have the best defense in the NFL. It's harder to build that story.
So Miami versus Jets was a little bit of a discussion in my cranium, and I think the Dolphins can win the Super Bowl. Like, there's not a lot of teams I would say I believe they can win the Super Bowl. Fangio, that defense has a chance to be great, but sort of in a Rams-like manner. I think they're fragile. Obviously, Tua is fragile. I mean, that aside, they have really bad depth. Like, the O-line is always trying to keep Armstead together with duct tape and string, and Tyreek and Waddle are awesome. But who else do they have besides Tyreek and Waddle? Like, it'd be nice if they had a tight end, an average tight end, Gerald Everett, you know what I mean? Like, just a dude. The defense is really good, but if Tyreek pulls a hamstring, all of a sudden you got one guy. They're just fragilely built to me.
And unlike the Jets and the Bills, they don't have that quarterback that could potentially, pull the rest of the team out of some bad luck that happens potentially.
Exactly. I mean, Rodgers, if you give him nothing, he'll make chicken soup out of it. Allen will make chicken soup out of whatever. But I don't know that Tua can, and I don't think Mac Jones can.
Right. And you look at Durham Smythe? Is that going to be the starting tight end for the?
I was racking my mind on that too.
They brought in Tyler Kroft off the street. They drafted Elijah Higgins, who's an interesting player, sort of a conversion wide receiver tight end in the 6th round. None of those things scare you. They've got that committee backfield that they've had going on. They added Devin Achane, who's really fast, to the mix there. So like seeing his speed, but you throw one more playmaker, Jonathan Taylor, maybe
even Taylor,
tight end, and there could be some people available. Then you start to you can start to overcome some things, even if you do have some nicked up wide receivers.
I feel like McDaniel, to reference your Niners, is missing his Kittle,
Yeah.
At least a third guy. I mean, he doesn't need Kittle and McCaffrey, but if he had one more dude, it would go a really long way.
Right. That's a good way to put it. Who's the third guy in Miami? And that can make a huge difference for this team. So we have it the same, but I just have the Jets 1 and you have the Bills 1.
Yeah. We didn't fight too much. I mean, the East and North are tough to do.
I think
the South is tough to do too.
I think the NFC is more interesting and there's more fights to be had there. And we will do the NFC power rankings later in the week. Yeah. I counted, you said something just now before we go, Matt. You said the teams that could win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm counting like 10. And in the I mean, that's a lot.
In the AFC, you're talking about?
Or 10 teams, right? That I can say, oh yeah,
ooh.
Chiefs, Chargers, Jaguars, anybody in the North. I'd put all 4 teams in the North in that conversation potentially. Things would have to go right for the Steelers and Browns, obviously.
Yeah.
And 3 out of the 4 teams in the East.
You're a little kinder than me. I don't know that I would say the Jags, Ravens, Browns, Steelers can win the Super Bowl. I mean, I think they could have double-digit wins, very successful season, get to the AFC Championship game. Steelers, Browns, Ravens, Jags. I don't know that they're there yet.
Okay. So Chiefs, Chargers, Bengals, Bills.
I think Jets and Dolphins, but I mean, I could just write the story easier. Like everything lines up for Miami. The defense is awesome. Tua's the 3rd best quarterback in fantasy this year. Hill goes for 2,000 yards. And if Taylor shows up there, I know running backs don't matter and all that. That would be nice.
Best division in the AFC. Is it the East or the West or the North?
I think it's the North. Because I think the Patriots would be, if you power rank the North and East, I think the Patriots are 8 clearly. If we combine those two, you know what I mean?
Here's my question, because Kansas City Chiefs, I would still power rank 1 in the entire AFC.
Yeah.
Where would you power rank the Chargers in the North and the East?
I think if we were to power rank the whole conference, I would go Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, Chargers.
Interesting. So the Raiders and Broncos really holding down that division because North is just better top to bottom.
I don't have a lot of faith in. I mean, I don't know that I'd put my hard-earned podcasting money on the Chargers. But if the dice hit snake eyes, they could be the best team in the league. You know what I mean? There's a lot of talent there.
Are the Jets now the team, though, that has the biggest opportunity to disappoint versus expectations?
I would put the Browns in that category, too.
Browns.
Yeah.
What if the Browns? Okay, show me Browns. 1989. Come on.
Right, 1989. Could the Jags fall on their face? I mean, they could still win the division, but
right, yeah,
they could disappoint.
The curve doesn't just go up. There's a little dip, and it could go up again in 2024, but it could come down a little bit this year, or plateau a little bit, and then you add some more.
That's the big plexiglass principle. When a team takes like 5 steps forward, they almost always take a step back. And I know Urban Meyer's the whole problem, blah, blah, blah. But usually you don't just keep climbing, especially after a giant step forward. I mean, they were picking 1st overall before that.
Kind of feel that way a little bit about the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I mean, the results weren't crazy, but we know why that happened. It was such an odd year for Miami last year.
And even schematically, this is sort of underreported. Late in the year, people were starting to figure out the Dolphins a little bit. They were banging around Tyreek and Waddle at the line of scrimmage, where early in the year they were petrified to do that because they'd get beat over the top, and they were disrupting the timing a lot more. So they need to have a counter to that schematically.
By the way, one more quick note on the Chargers from the preseason. I noticed that the Kellen Moore was trying to implement was a lot more movement, and we see it's kind of the new rage in the NFL is how much motion and movement and trying to use a player flashing over here as a free blocker, so you don't have to block this guy over here, and the horizontal stuff. So that'll be interesting to see what that Chargers offense looks like, and we saw a lot of that with Miami. That's what reminded me of it.
Yeah, and you said this with the Patriots. I mean, a massive coordinator jump up for the Patriots. I think the same is true for the Chargers.
Yep, absolutely. All right, that is the AFC. Let us know what you think we got wrong at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Get in those early mailbag questions for Thursday, or actually we're going to have to do Wednesday coming up pretty soon here. It's going to be Thursday this week, but then it's going to be Wednesdays, I think, as football gets going, because we'll have football
games
happening on Thursday throughout the season. And of course, you can drop a question anytime in the YouTube comments. Make sure you are subscribed up there on YouTube. Hit all the buttons and the thumbs ups. And anywhere you get your podcast, you can find Peacock and Williamson. Back tomorrow.